So we got a lot we could talk about because there's been a lot of developments. Obviously, we had Summer Games Fest, Xbox, this show. The Final Fantasy 16 demo came out, and I got to sit down and play through that, and I'll be playing through that this next week. So I'm going to say dealer's choice as to, I just listed off a handful of topics. We could talk about a handful of other topics. What do you want to jump into first?
I mean, I don't understand how people have time to play this many games. Like people are so excited about it, and they're like, which showcase had the most games you want to play? And I'm like, how is the number of games you're adding to your existing games plural? Like, how do people look forward to more than one game at a time? Were there any showcases that make you think you are going to drop existing games to make room?
Oh man, that's a really good question. And I think that really kind of ties into the first game that I'm honestly from the showcases that I'm more excited about anything, because it's also within reach. One of the things that I get when people talk about like, hey, we want to make sure we're seeding, 3 and 4 and 5 years down the road. Like, I don't have that kind of energy right now because I think 2023 is like one of the best years for video games, at least for me. Like, we talked about Diablo, we talked about all these things. Like, it's checking all the boxes, in my opinion. That's why the internet discord around video games has gotten so like vitriol that it's just like, I don't know. I
don't know why.
Right.
It's time of plenty. Like the
I'm
buffet has the best steak ever, and they're bringing in the lobster off the boat, and the chicken. People are complaining that it's too savory. Like it's too perfect. And there's a family using their family recipe to make Italian gelato in the corner, and like people are arguing with each other. Why? Like, just go get what you want to eat.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
What a great time to be a gamer.
So to answer the question, ultimately, like, what did I see coming out of like Summer Games Fest and things that I'm excited about that I already haven't really shared? And I think for me, the biggest takeaway is Starfield, namely because obviously, like, the gameplay, I think, sells it to me. It's got that first-person shooter, but at the same time, it's got that like exploration and RPG elements. Obviously, coming out of it, like, you see the people frustrated with the 30 frames per second. I am one of those, especially on console, especially for a shooter. Chris and I have made our opinions on this very well known. I've seen a lot of people. Yeah, first party,
Premier hardware,
the most powerful console ever, etc. Like, to the point where then on PC, it's going to be 60, if not more. Like, I have a PC that's going to run it. So just like with Redfall, like, I'm not negatively impacted by this, but it still is like, yeah, like, that's just like, this is an Xbox series console forward, and they're not going to hit 60. And I've seen so many people coming out in defense of all of a sudden 60 frames doesn't matter. Why are we making a big deal about the number of frames? It's going to do so many things. I'm like, all right, if you're happy with it, that's fine, whatever. But we know scientifically that the number of frames actually has a more enjoyable impact on players and the way they enjoy games.
Depends on the game, right?
Well,
like a turn-based game, it is what
yeah.
it is. There's a reason that Diablo has the ability to let your frame rate suffer in cutscenes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are people that are okay with that. TV's at 24, or at least it used to be. These days, now we stream everything, and we're all getting 60 frames, 20 billion Ks. It's like, but the frames. In-house games, right? When they bought ZeniMax, in-house games should have Premier Access. They should be able to pick up the phone and call the hardware team and say, hey, I'm having this issue. What's the deal? They should be able to troubleshoot this. And in-house games, first party, the reason they should be exclusive, the only justification for things being exclusive is that they are uniquely designed, spec'd, and perfected to showcase both the game and the hardware. They're supposed to complement each other. Wii Sports was only on the Wii because only the Wii could make Wii Sports possible, and Wii Sports made the Wii look better than ever. They were there to complement each other. So the exclusivity gave the community something. So if you are bringing something to bear that is going to be console exclusive, then there needs to be a silver lining, right? We're paying something. We're paying in exclusivity. We're paying in locking everybody that does not have that console out, and that sucks. And in trade, we as a total gamer community should be getting something back. It's why I'm against third-party exclusives just almost across
all the time.
Board. Yeah. Because I don't see what we're getting. I see what we're paying. I don't see what we're getting. I see what they're getting because they're usually getting.
I see what they're getting. Yeah,
that doesn't help me. It's not like, well, because Square Enix is buddied with Sony, all their games are only $40. That would be different.
Yeah, that'd be a different conversation.
It's the same thing. We're just getting the bad.
Well, especially when the PC version, like in this case, because obviously we're alluding to 16, which I got the collector's edition. Like, financially, like, I I'm already sold. Like there's no which way or but about it. But I still at the same time can say, yeah, I am looking forward to buying this again on the PC when it has the ultra wide support and PC features that can't be done on the PS5. And so I think ultimately they sold me twice. Like, well played, Square, but I do feel for especially a large part of the community. That's where when we talk about those who are like really frustrated, the biggest voice I hear is the exclusivity voice, because I'm not putting any weight into anybody who's like, it should be a turn-based game. It's like I like turn-based games. If they make a Final Fantasy that's a turn-based game, I will buy that too and be excited for that as well. But that isn't what Final Fantasy is. Final Fantasy isn't like one thing. But when it comes to PS5 exclusivity, I get it, because you're going to have to lock yourself into a box and not have it spoiled. And already, the fact is this thing's going to sell PS5s. And all I said was the other day, I hope that check from Sony was massive to Square, because this is finally a first PS5 forward game. They're not supporting the PS4. So we get to see what they can bring technologically and what they can benefit from the Sony team and the devs. Like you said, the hotline is up. The Sony team is there to help make sure that this game runs as best as it can on a PS5. And I think a lot of people are gonna, next week's gonna be wild. But in terms of like quitting other games or just like setting other games aside, Starfield looks to be such a meaty experience. But the 30 frames a second is like, that's just an instant. I'm not going to really bother with it on console. That means I'm going to play it on PC. And the best news out of all of that, it was this subtle line. And I don't know if you've even seen it. This for me was huge. PC Game Pass is actually coming to GeForce Now. So,
I didn't see that.
Yeah, they announced this. It's hey guys, we're bringing not like our games are on Steam and whatever, but PC Game Pass games are coming to GeForce Now, so that if you have you can, if you have both services, bada bing, bada boom. And I'm like, man. Isn't that? And guess what, Chris? GeForce Now runs on Xbox, and it can actually output in 120 frames a second.
The 3080 might be my last graphics card for a long time, because when I got it, it was top of the world. But my brother's on like a 10-year-old graphics card because he runs GeForce Now.
Yeah.
And so when the 3080, when you guys are all running 62 580s or whatever, I'll still be running a 3080 because I will be using GeForce Now. Congrats to everybody that, like me, is locked into a founder's rate. Then GeForce Now is
I am locked in on that rate.
I thought about shutting it off last year when I was filing taxes.
I was like, how do I
looking at my monthly expenses?
Can I put a secondary payment method just in case for some reason, like
you $1 a year to hold this rate and not get service? Because I didn't use it very well in the last 12 months. And so I thought about disabling it, but then I was like, then if I come back, Founders rate's cheap.
Yeah. Oh, dude, it's and I actually did the upgrade Founders Ultimate Edition, so I'm running a 4090, and then that it actually runs all my games in 120 frames a second in ultra wide. And somebody's like, why would you even do that? It's like, why would I want to put the pressure and the heat on my computer? Heat is one of the Yeah, well, especially with those heat is the one of the biggest detriments to your hardware, because just like the roads that you drive on, cold and heat has this flex. And so that's why you see PCs that aren't made of high quality materials degrade faster. Someone's like, oh, I got this computer for $400, and then the next year they're like, oh, I need a new computer. It's like, yeah, because it gets hot, it gets cold, and everything starts to struggle and take more time, so that's a natural kind of slowdown. So that's where it's like, yeah, every opportunity, especially when I'm streaming, I can have my computer just handle the stream, and then I can have whatever service I'm using, whether it's Shadow or it's GeForce Now, literally handle the game. And it's like I can run games just in such great quality, and then I have a great time with the stream. That's actually one of the things that is always kind of unique now, is that whenever I'm running a local game, I see so much more resources obviously being pinged on the system. I was playing Blue Protocol because it launched in Japan. I'm loving it. I'm having a great time, but the whole time I'm like, oh my gosh, are they going to catch me? Are they going to see me? Are they going to ban my account? And so, I'm like, I know that Blue Protocol, when it launches globally, will be also on console, will also be supported on GeForce Now, because it's going to have Steam. And so far, Amazon's been supporting all the games through GeForce Now. and I wonder if they'll also support Luma. So honestly, like when it comes down to the games, there there wasn't any announcement because like everything that they've announced, we haven't seen Perfect Dark yet. We haven't like from the Xbox showcase in and of itself. I was like, oh, this is okay. This is cool. Starfield is something that I'm very actually looking forward to stepping in. And we know it's Bethesda. We know that somebody said that, oh, but they're actually going to be able to hit 30 frames a second as a Bethesda game. Like, wow, like that's a huge improvement.
Yeah, that's their max, not their guarantee.
Yeah, it's like, oh wow, if they're going to have that locked in. But in terms of like the gameplay and the exploration and the proceduralness of it, like it just seems like it could be a really fun game to kind of get lost in and explore and just kind of experience. And so I was like, yeah, I've always been interested in it, but now I'm actually like from a gameplay and story and everything perspective, I think just like I'm sitting down to play Final Fantasy 16 next week, through and through, like Julie's giving me that for Father's Day, like just go play your game, have fun. I'll, like you just live in it. Just like that. I think that also look forward to Starfield in that same way. And now I just need to figure out, because like after I play through 16, I want to play through 7R and see, and especially kind of, have the differences and what I ultimately feel is, where I kind of go with it. So yeah, I think it's really good. I can't really think of any mic drop moment. And I think that's probably where, when we talk about some of the bitterness and we talk about some of that within the like gaming communities, I think a lot of it ends up being like, how much is like people who are just in the know, like you and me, like we're reading articles, we're researching, we're discussing it offline. And then, it turns out they make the announcement, because we knew they were going to make the Throne and Liberty announcement. We knew like there wasn't anything like.
I hadn't been following Path of Exile, and so the Path of Exile community knew Path of Exile 2 was coming, and now that's confirmed. And so for a lot of us that maybe hadn't been following it, that was like, I should be looking in on that. So like, yeah. I mean, it's definitely good to kind of catch us up, even if you are in the know on like one corner of gaming. Gaming's a big space, and as much as we think of it as like Final Fantasy players or World of Warcraft players or Gears of War players or Forza players, I think the vast majority of gamers play more than one game in a calendar year, which means that you're part of multiple communities, but you're not part of all the communities. So even if 5 or 6 games backward and forward, you check their press site every day, there's still 5 others that you would maybe play next year that you're not aware of. So like, it's still a good season for just kind of reminders and projects that maybe you heard about a year ago, but you're like, man, who knows?